Добрий день, вітаю всіх.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for accepting our invitation, and let's get ready to fruitful and I hope very interesting discussion. So please take your places in the audience. I hope that we will have enough space. If not, then we will look for additional chairs. You know, you always lack money and lack chairs in some events. This is eternal problem.
Шановні учасники нашої сьогоднішньої події,
Participants of our today events, I am now addressing those who are in the audience and those who are watching us online. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude for coming and for discussing with us such important problems of cooperation of Ukraine and international financial institutions in the wide sense of this word. It's European Union, International Monetary Fund, and some other organizations. We are conducting yet another presentation of the monitoring of Ukraine's commitments with those our main microfinancial donors. And this presentation traditionally is done by the consortium that consists of four organizations. It is the Center of Economic Strategy, Institute for Advocacy, DiXi Group, and Institute of Political Consultations. My name is Ihor Burakovsky, and I'm the chairman of the board of Institute for Economic Research and Policy. I'm going to be moderator today. I would like to immediately say that our work will be possible without International Foundation Renaissance. And if to talk about who is the best donor and the best partner, it is of course the Renaissance Foundation. And so far, Mr. Trump is losing is losing to Renaissance. If to talk about help to Ukraine, I immediately would like to say that the support of International Foundation Renaissance, these are big projects of various topics, and we are extremely pleased that different projects in the sphere of policy production and of politics are being supported, because without that it's pretty difficult to achieve results. I immediately would like to say that you will listen to my colleagues from consortium. Each of them will be talking about their own part of monitoring, but I would like to first and foremost start from International Monetary Fund. I almost confused it with International Foundation Renaissance, but it's a different organization. So why International Monetary Fund? Because of course it's a leading institution that is setting certain tone and direction of economic policy in Ukraine. Our other donors are really oriented to International Monetary Fund, and specialists know that International Monetary Fund, as of now, it is extremely powerful organization that is not only giving funds, giving money, but also trying to influence positive political changes that we need. It is my greatest pleasure to give the floor to Mr. Yuriy Romashko, Executive Director, Institute for Analytics and Advocacy. The speech of his topic, Ukraine's readiness for the 7th IMF Programme review. Yuriy, the question to you immediately. So first and foremost, we have the record because it's already the 6th review. We haven't had such numbers before. And traditional question, whether we are going to have the 7th or not. Well, Ihor, first and foremost, thank you for this introduction. Pretty official speech. Well, I am a little bit tense now because of that, whether we are ready or not. Well, I will start from a little bit far, if you don't mind. So it seems to me that today the strategic task of Ukraine, when we are talking about cooperation with international partners, that is trust. We need to remain this trust. We need to develop this trust. How to do that? My understanding is such that we need to do our homework effectively. What do I mean by homework? Homework, it is that what is really well written today in IMF fund, in Ukraine facility, and in range of other documents, for example, TPL, and I believe that majority knows about that, and some other documents. I will try to talk in a nutshell about IMF, and then my colleagues will talk about other documents and that homework that I'm talking about. So first and foremost, Ihor has already mentioned that we have achieved a certain historic peak maximum because we successfully have the sixth review of the program. It is the first time for Ukraine to be so effective in this area and to get so far. And that talks about certain effectiveness in our homework. And now the seventh review is waiting for us. So what do we need to know? First and foremost is that on the 20th of December 2024, there was a session. Oh, yes, sorry. I started talking a lot about trust, but everything is on the slide. I started talking about 20th of December. It is important date because there was the session of board of directors of IMF, and Ukraine got yet another tranche, $1.1 billion. As you can see on the slide, 63% of program performed from the point of view of finances. It is big component. What does it mean for us? That later, we need to be frank here that we will have certain decrease, and as you can see on the slide, for 2025, the maximum that we can get is 2.7 billion. Of course, if we are effective in our homework. What tasks do we have right now? Based on the results of the sixth review, we got three new structural beacons. As you can see on the slide, two of them is for financial sector and one of them sector for energy. As you can see on the screen, it is a matter of operational strategy for the regulatory of security market and minimization of operational risks of financial institutions. That's when we're talking about finances. And energy, it is assessment of performance of the National Committee on Regulation and ERC. I'm not going to go further to those and deeper to those structural beacons. I think we will talk about them later within our discussion. Now let me outline the main context. So next review will not be easy for us. It will take place in March because, as you can see on the slide, we have two red dots. It's called to cancel amendments of Lozovay and create a Supreme Anti-Corruption Administrative Court. These are two tasks that we haven't performed yet. These are those structural beacons that already were postponed several times. So the deadline for them was in December. On the one hand, we can say that it is a difficult beacon, complicated one, but let's be frank here. Is a reform of accounting chamber a simple one? Or some other reforms? No. Each of these beacons are difficult. The matter is in our political will, internal concentration, understanding of responsibility on each of these homeworks that we call structural beacons. So it seems to me that today we need to concentrate our efforts as consortium on stimulating this discussion on even with a delay, but still have a different readiness till March. In next slides, we will talk a little bit later about what are these amendments of Lozovay and what is retrospective of this beacon and what do we have right now, because there are certain draft laws that were registered. And the same is about Supreme Administrative Court, because this topic also has been mentioned by the European Commission in their report, where there were not very positive estimations concerning the processes. So summing up, we are interested in the seventh review. The success of this review can give us 900 million to the state budget for stimulating and providing stability for Ukraine. We need to focus on performing these two beacons that we already failed deadlines. We have to be frank here. And it seems to me that the discussion should be as acute as possible right now. Sorry, but it is the matter of economics resilience. Yes, we are doing a lot, but we need to do even more. Yes, we are under the conditions of war. We are in such reality, but such are our circumstances. So, in a nutshell, let me repeat myself. For 2025, we already see the trajectory for decrease of payments. It is presupposed it should have been like that. But why do we need to understand all those structural beacons? They need to have average long-term growth in the sectors that they regulate, not just performance of principle of money in terms of reform. That's important as well. But here, we are for that to have the trajectory of growth despite all these difficulties and despite of certain forecast for 2025, because we'll know also that is a mechanism of ERA that gives us certain forecasting opportunities, but we also have 2026, and the question is what to do with it. And here I will leave three dots because sources say that we have Maksym who's going to talk about it. So in a nutshell, that's going to be like that, and I will be ready to talk in the format of questions and answers later. And sorry, moderator, I need to leave you for 10 minutes, force majeure, but then I will get back to give answer to all the questions. Thank you, dear colleagues. Thank you, Yuriy. So then we can have three short conclusions. The work is going on, and we are trying to do everything that depends on us. At the same time, with every new step, the volumes of problems and risks are unfortunately growing in our environment. And the third conclusion, for us, cooperation with International Monetary Fund was and is and will be priority direction, regardless of all the problems we were talking about right now. I summed it up, and of course, we are going to have some questions later. After all our colleagues talk, in this session we will discuss all of it. Thank you, Yuriy. We are waiting for you so that you can give answer to the questions. So what's going to happen with the funds of IMF? We understand partly, but we also have our brothers Europeans. These organizations that we are trying to enter. We have Ukrainian facility, and it is my big pleasure to give the floor now to Alona Korohod, project expert, DiXi Group, and find out how is everything going on with European money. Thank you. Thank you, Ihor. So talking about work of the support of the European Union, we all see that the EU keeps on supporting Ukraine in modernization, recovery of Ukraine within Ukraine facility, and it is presupposed by 2027. Let me click the slide. Here on the slide, you can see that in 2024, Ukraine actually was pretty successful in doing, as Yuriy has mentioned, homework, and we got additionally 16.1 billion euro to budget. And for 2025, if we keep on the same pace and to work on indicators, and we will be able to get 12.5 billion to the budget. Actually, talking about 2024, these 16.1 billion euros, it has a transitional and unconditional financing provided by the European Union and performing indicators of the second quarter of 2024. And actually, the European Union, each quarter, when we reported, the European Commission assessed successfully performance of our indicators and provided us with money. Ministry of Economy, by the way, informed that this 16.1 billion euro that we got additionally to the budget, it is 40% of work from Western partners that we got in general in 2024. So what happened in the end of the year, what should be mentioned, and what should be done in the nearest future? We performed indicators of the third quarter, and in the middle of December, the end of the year, the European Commission gave the last tranche. It's 4.1 billion euro to the budget for performing indicators of the 2024, and we got them to the budget. But it is worth mentioning that we got them with certain delay, because indicator 4.4 that presuppose certain changes to criminal and criminal procedural codes was not done on time. The law was adopted with 1 month delay. The president signed it also with 1 month delay. That's why the European Union also gave us this money with 1 month delay. But we need to mention here that the European Union also does not have this mechanism of partial payment for performed indicators. That's why we got the whole amount, but with a delay. On the 23rd of January, so last week, Ministry of Economy directed to the European Commission a reporting package on indicators of the fourth quarter, so the last quarter of 2024. There we performed 13 indicators. In case of successful approval and of performance of these indicators by the European Commission, we will be able to get 3.5 billion euros, but these funds should be approved by the Council of the European Union according to the procedure and country members of the European Union. So what do we need to do in the nearest future? We are expecting that in the first quarter, so till the end of March, we need to approve 16 indicators, and Obviously, that we are expecting, as we have already mentioned in our previous meetings, that we are expecting from the European Commission the launch of so-called informational panel of scoreboard that will monitor performance of indicators, and according to information, it should be open and accessible at the end of 2025. So we are expecting it. Talking about indicators of the first quarter, actually, out of 16 indicators, we can note that so far Ukraine proved only two. One in the sphere of human capital, it's the law on preschool education, and in the sphere of green transition and environmental protection, it was about the law that came into force in autumn 2024. 2 out of 16. We understand that 16 indicators still need to be approved till the end of March. And actually, there are lots of work for our parliamentaries, and we expect certain activization and certain process, in particular in the sphere of reform of public governance, the legislation on reform on salaries on public service should come into force, and actually everything is okay here. The law was adopted in the first reading, but it was still adopted in 2023, so it has been there for a pretty long time already, so we need to get back to it, and we need to raise this matter again, and we hope for its timely adoption. In the sphere of fight against corruption and money laundering, we have two indicators. We are expecting to have big amount of employees in the Supreme Anti-Corruption Court, and also different laws. In the sphere of managing state assets, we need to approve roadmap on providing public services and other activities. We also have to approve one indicator in the sphere of human capital. To be precise, we need to approve the strategy on the development of culture of Ukraine. In December, there were the first discussions of the strategy, and we need to keep on working on that. Also, we have two more indicators in the sphere of decentralization of regional policy, and also in production, agro-food sector of managing of critical fossil fuels. We are still expecting to update the office of users of fossil fuels, but we have still three indicators in the sphere of digital transformation, and in the sphere of green transition and environmental protection. There should be action plan approved concerning the creation of a national system of quota trades on greenhouse gases. Actually, the project has already been published, but we are still waiting for its adoption. So that's why we can see that still we have lots of work to do. A lot has to be done, but we will be monitoring the performance, and you can monitor us in the next meetings. Track our activity. Okay, thank you. I immediately would like to announce technically that for each of these presentations, we're actually working with such product that is called presentation. And this presentation, it is actually accumulated result of everything that has been done up till now, plus update of what has been done from the previous presentation. If you're interested in this pretty big analytical but very complex analytical document, then please visit our Facebook page, our joint informational resource as well. You can also visit pages of our organizations, in particular Institute, if today we are hosting this event, and already you can view such materials in a more complex way. It's also very interesting and very important. So we reviewed actually two directions of financing, two main sources of financing of our non-military expenses, let's put it like that. In support of budget, we are talking about macrofinance. Here it's International Monetary Fund and Ukrainian facility. We see that Ukrainian facility is working. It's extremely important because there were lots of questions at the very beginning, how it's going to work, how it's going to move. And we see that on the one hand, it is working. On the other hand, there are certain problems, how to assess partial performance, some delays, but we need money. And that is all and well, but we moving to the main matter. The main matter is how much do we need and how much do we have, at least for 2025? Why this this question is extremely important. I think it's understandable. All of us, parliamentaries, officials, had a pretty difficult first months of 2024 when we had problems with external financing and with military aid. And at that time, situation was, well, I would not say critical, but it was pretty tense. Then later it was somehow regulated, but the beginning of 2024, we met under huge stress. So it is my greatest pleasure to give the floor right now to Mr. Maksym Samoiliuk, Economist, Center for Economic Strategy, funding needs for 2025, challenges and risks. And a traditional question, how much do we need and what do we have? Thank you, Ihor Valentynovych. Thank you, all the participants. Welcome to all the participants of today's discussion. We were talking today already about the program of the International Monetary Fund. It is definitely for term of 2023 for international financing for Ukraine. We were also talking about Plan Ukraine. It is a term of the year 2024. 2025, it is first and foremost mechanism of era financing. These are those $50 billion that Ukraine will get from the countries of G7 from funds from frozen Russian assets. It is important to understand that these frozen Russian assets are not going to be given to Ukraine. It's special mechanisms of financing developed specifically to go through legal and geopolitical biases and certain concerns that do not allow our partners to give frozen Russian assets to Ukraine as soon as possible. And these are $100 billion. In fact, for Ukraine, it will be grant. It will be financing that we will not need to get back. But legally, there are certain issues. So for Ukraine to successfully get these funds, we introduced certain changes to the budget code, and we added there such a term that is called contingent liabilities. So actually, these $50 billion that are going to be used as credit are not going to be as debts of Ukraine. And if Russia disagrees to provide us reparations for all that damage that they have done during the time of the full-fledged invasion, we will not have to give that funds back. So in fact, these 50 billion are grants for us, but they are going as credit, as a loan. But we need to understand that it is very sly mechanism and very legally complex. Why the ERA mechanism is the term of 2025? This year, it will cover the biggest part of our needs in financing, despite of all those geopolitical and military challenges that Ukraine is facing right now. From the budget point of view, as strange as it might sound, we have more stable position than we had in 2024. Let me remind you how we met 2024. We did not have any understanding whether we are going to have budget on financing from the USA that we were relying on the previous year. Later, it led to, also because of the fact that Ukraine did not get military aid from the USA, it led to certain budget problems that brought the need to increase taxes at the end of the year. 2025, we already have different situation. Thanks to those $50 billion that our partners from G7 countries managed to collect for Ukraine, we understand that our at least minimal needs in external financing are going to be fully covered. For 2025, Ministry of Finances is saying about the need in foreign financing at least $38 billion. It is non-budget deficit and paying of debts that we will have to pay off this year. These are that funds that Ministry of Finances plan to involve as external aid. With the help of ERA financing, we already this year have such expectations that we will get at least least 64 billion. It fully covers already now the need in foreign aid. Even if certain part of financing of ERA will come later, still the needs for 2025 are covered. Even more so, to compare with that external financing that we had previously and that could have been used only for civil needs, ERA funds also can be used for military needs, so for financing of defense, for the development of our military industry complex, and other extremely important things that previously Ukraine involved money only from internal sources. There is a logical question then. If previous year we had certain problems with financing from the USA, how this administration of the new president situation and this vague situation might influence ERA situation. For Ukraine, right now, we understand that funds that the USA committed to allocate for us within this initiative already were given to the World Bank already at the end of the previous year by the administration of Biden president administration. So the World Bank will allocate it to Ukraine later, and Ukraine can rely on these funds regardless of everything. Even more so, the first tranche of $1 billion already came to Ukraine, and these funds will be used for salaries of teachers, medics, and other social programs of social support. The European Union that should allocate around $19 billion for Ukraine, depending on the exchange rate. The European Union has already paid out the first 3 billion of euros from frozen assets of Russia, and the next tranches will come gradually throughout the whole year. Ukraine knows when, what volumes, so this money will come according to the plan, and it will help our government to understand what resources they have to cover state expenses throughout the whole 2025. Still, it is mentioned that ERA money should be spent wisely, and we need to still have this reserve of strength for 2025-2026. We have mentioned today already that in 2025 we have certain strengths of budget. No one can predict what is going to be happen next. So that's why these funds from ERA financing, they should be enough not only for 2025 but also for 2026. We need to understand that we might need to also use it for next year. So according to our consortium, we really need to use that funds really wisely, and we need to understand that any political benefits, budget benefits this year at this particular moment, getting these benefits, we need to understand that these funds need to work for the next years as well. That's it from my side. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I think that everything is clear. We still have high level of uncertainty concerning how we are going to get and what. And of course, it's not only the question to our donors and our partners, but also for Ukraine. We need to look at some things, let's delicately say, with the increase of our financial discipline on the one hand, and on the other hand, we need to be ready to some kind of variant of mobilization of funds, I would say, but it's pretty complicated topic. It's pretty politically sensible, but we need to talk about it in any case. Dear colleagues, we are almost done with our first part, and before we move to our second matter today, a special topic, public investment management system, we have several minutes for 1 or 2 very short questions from the audience. Those who would like to ask the questions, please introduce yourself, ask the question, and we will try to answer them. Please be more courageous, or everything is clear. It should be like this for the whole policy. Everything is clear for everyone, and everyone is doing everything. Yes, please. If the question is asked, unfortunately, it is not heard because it's without microphone.
Мікрофон, будь ласка, да, щоб перекладач міг.
Could you please take the microphone so that the interpreter can interpret you? Yes, so these numbers show our investment prospects. We have certain problems with the loss of those people who can employ a population, or we are losing people who are either mobilized, and we have the matter of compliance of staff resources and financial resources, and we see that these funds are allocated to state sector, social matters, but maybe these programs have somewhere recovery of also staff potential. Yes, thank you. And one more question. There was one more question, please. Dmytro Koshovy, Interfax Ukraine. Yes, unfortunately, as far as I understand, Yuriy is not going to get back to us. He will get back a little bit later, but don't worry, he'll come back. Okay, I just wanted to hear how you assess the dynamics of performing all these requirements. To talk about the last month, has it changed? Well, maybe it hasn't changed when we understood that Ukraine will get this 50 billion of grant money in Ihor mechanism. And how do you assess the opportunity of a timely seventh review with International Monetary Fund? Okay, let's do the following. Let's do it the following way. I would like to give the opportunity to my colleagues to answer shortly, and we will get back to our second part. Oleksandra, please. Yes, I will be very fast, and then I will give the floor to the colleagues if they want it. So after I had post on Facebook that we have good and bad news when we got this 50 billion. Good news that we had 50 billion, bad news we have 50 billion. And that's the problem, because when you think that we have lots of financing and it is accessible, the opportunity to make difficult decision is decreasing. And here we have risk. That's what colleagues were talking about, that we have this risk that it will be more difficult to make more difficult decision concerning IMF and Ukraine facility, just because of the fact that it is we do not need that funds so critically. But what is critical is that without IMF funds, without active program of IMF, that what Yuriy was talking about, it will be extremely difficult for us to get financing for 2026, because IMF is actually this important stepping stone, and around it all other work is built around. So IMF is our partner here and key player for us to get financing, because once again, if you're talking about IMF program, then we see financing there that was proved for us. So once again, is that IMF got promises from other players, how much are they ready to give us? So we have to go through that. But money actually go to many different spheres. And actually yesterday there was event on Skills Alliance. It was yet another meeting. It was also that's about training and retraining of the staff to overcome that structural unemployment that we currently have. Yes, and I also would like to add a little bit to the first question concerning foreign financing and what problems it might help us to solve. In my opinion, it is extremely important to understand that all these years of full-fledged war, these thousands billion of dollars that we are getting from our partners as external financing of budget, these are not funds that are given to us for some kind of huge economic growth or investment project or something like that. It is first and foremost for us saving belt, something that can help Ukrainian economy to feel relatively okay as much as it is possible under the conditions of the full-fledged war. And we need to understand that without this international financing, foreign financing, nothing will be possible. So if we get these funds and they let us preserve those state services, salaries for all employees of state sector on at least the same level they were before full-fledged invasion, taking into account that all our incomes, internal incomes, are used for fighting against Russian Federation aggression. But the matter is that 38 billion will go specifically for this saving vote for us. This year we are happy we can talk about some kind of additional funds Immediately there are questions whether we are going to perform our previous commitments. Of course, we have to keep on doing that. We shouldn't relax here and think that now we have IRA mechanism and we can forget about everything that we ourselves promised to our partners. That's why the matter concerning additional funds is still open. They might be used for being more effective in our fight against aggression. They can be invested in defense. They can be used for solving some staff matters. They also can be used as our safety vote for the next year. And that's already a matter of choice. And we need to get to it with a cold mind. And we need to understand that any decision might also have risks of not performing some other decisions. So here we need to be very careful, taking into account the challenges, especially in a geopolitical sphere.
Я буквально 2 слова,
Yes,
говорячи про
Alona,
Ukraine
please. Just
Facility,
2 more
порівнюючи
words
його з
talking
ЕРАю,
about Ukraine facility
то зрозуміло, що
and
там
comparing it with IRA.
частина
It's
коштів, яку ми
understandable
маємо
that in both
отримати
cases
тільки
we
на
have
відміну
certain
від
amount of money that
ЕРА,
we have to
Ukraine
get, but
Facility передбачає
Ukraine
виконання
facility
домашнього завдання,
presupposes
виконання
also some kind of
індикаторів.
homework and
І тут,
performance
звичайно,
of
є ризик, тому
indicators
що
in
чим
comparison to IRA. And
складніше,
of
тим можна
course, we have
скіпнути,
certain risks
тим у
here
нас є
because the more
додаткове
difficult it
фінансування.
is,
Так не
the
має
more we
бути. Ми
think that
маємо
we can skip
розуміти,
it. We have
що
additional financing,
ці
but it shouldn't be like that
завдання,
because we need to
які
understand that all these
прийняті і
tasks
узгоджені з нами
that were
і Європейським
agreed
Союзом, це наші
and
реформи, це
passed
наше
by the European
майбутнє. І це
Union.
все
These
для
are our
нас, це не
reforms.
для
This
Європейського
is our
Союзу.
future,
Тому
and this is
треба
for us. It is not
виконувати,
for the
треба
European Union.
отримувати,
So we
треба
need to
працювати.
perform this. We
Дякую.
need to keep on working.
Дякую.
Thank you.
І перед тим, як
Thank
ви...
you. And
Так, давайте ще одне
before, well,
питання.
yes, one more question. Yes,
Да, дуже швидко, я вибачаюсь, да.
but please be very fast.
Я розвитку науки, ми займаємося комплексним розвитком.
Thank you. Our organization is dealing with the complex development of amalgamated communities. Could you please get to the question? Yes. My question was that in that speech you have interesting information concerning 2 indicators on decentralization, and I have this question. So who's going to manage money when they come to the budget? And maybe there is some kind of mechanism of effectiveness control of using these funds. In particular,
Да, будь ласка, Альона, да?
Давайте,
yes,
Олександра.
please,
дивіться,
Alona.
ми
Yes,
працюємо взагалі
Alexander.
над
So
презентацією,
how when we are
дивимося,
working on the
які
presentation,
індикатори працюють в сферах
we
відповідальності,
divide
децентралізації
those
якраз були в
structural
моїх
beacons,
індикаторах,
and
тому
decentralization was
питання.
in my indicator. So let me answer that. So first and foremost, 20% from grants, that is 1 billion in Ukraine facility. It is going to go to local budgets. Right now, the mechanism, how those, we do not still don't have mechanism on how these funds are going to be spent. We have financing for certain recovery that goes through European investment banks. We have had competitions and Ministry of Development, Structural Development Ministry of Finances are doing that, and I in my presentation will have it a little bit later. It's actually about this. Yes, dear colleagues, we are trying to lag behind a little bit, so let's get faster here. So every time when we conduct some kind of research like that, we are trying to take some very important topic, and these important topics, they are actually, you know, every time these topics have some critically important value for economy. And now we would like to talk about the public investment management system reform, because really that money that comes to the budget, one of the direction for their usage is it's with public investment. So that's why now we are going to have a little bit change of our meeting. So please, participants of the next panel, can you please join us here? So I invite, we are still waiting for Oleksandra Sobolev, Roxolana Pidlyasa, Priscilla, please.
Please do come. Да. Both of you, no discrimination. No discrimination. Так, і хто є?
Ярослав Єде.
Да, і Ярослав, да, де Ярослав? Не
And
бачу так.
Yaroslav.
В онлайні, да.
Ah, Yaroslav is online with us. Okay.
Допоможіть нам, щоб ми бачили, хто у нас є. Так, отже,
So please, yes,
починаємо
help us to see
говорити
who's
про
here and who's not. So we
публічні
start
інвестиції.
talking about public
Слово для виступу
investment,
надається
and
Олександру
now
Бетлій,
I'd like to give the
провідній
floor to
науковій
Oleksandra
співробітниці
Betliy,
Інституту економічних
leading
досліджень,
research fellow,
присвяченому
Institute for
попередньому
Economic Research
обговоренню
and
з
Policy
нашими
Consulting, and after that
нашими
we will
гостями,
we'll get to the discussion with our guests and of course participants of our today's event. Oleksandra, please.
Дуже дякую.
Thank you. Actually, those structured slides that were showed by the colleagues, it's really presentation slides, and there we have lots of text slides based on indicators. Let me learn how to manage it. It doesn't want to click. Lots of text, but I will try to be very concise. So actually, about effectiveness, we like talking about the effectiveness of spending budget funds, and that we need to spend them effectively, even if, especially when we have lack of them. We have been talking about it for a pretty long time already. For the last period, we have had lots of changes that took place in the system of public management investment. So about terminology, public, it means that they are state investments of local budget, and the local investment of local budget where 50+% belong to the state. So this is a public sector, and this all reform is about a very wide range of players actually. The reform is needed to increase the effectiveness of spending of the funds. We have certain limitations of them, and they have to be spent in priority direction. In 2023, the World Bank issued a diagnostic report on what is going on in the sphere of public investment management, what has been done, and so on and so forth. They have found certain disadvantages in the system because it is fragmented, and really when we are talking about public sector, it was fragmented. Different priorities were defined in a different way. There was system for state budget, for local budgets were different systems, so it was not effective. Pretty often we had under-financed projects in the next period, so this year we financed, next year we forgot. Partially it was connected with the fact that there has never been medium range budget planning in Ukraine. Right now Ukraine is effectively implementing it. A lot has been done in this sphere, and part of indicators and structural decons actually talk about this planning. Previous year, 2024, they proved this budget declaration. This year, once again, one of the indicators is this precise thing, but there is also an indicator that says that, for example, system of public management, public investment management should be incorporated in such planning, and that is extremely important for us. According to the plan that I have mentioned of the World Bank, we need to create the single system of public investment management, and it should be strategic, and I would like to emphasize on that, it should be strategic. So those investments have to be in compliance with certain strategic documents. So we do not invest everywhere, we do not have money for everywhere, but we are doing what is in compliance with our strategy. Also we need to have transparency of financing, harmonization of rules, and so on and so forth. And here the main thing is that part of structural beacons of IMF, and it's based on what we had on the previous slides, it's more detailed there, is actually talking about this reform of public investment management system. So actually these 4 indicators that we have in the program, they are about that. 3 have already been performed, 1 is still coming. We have 2 indicators. Oh, sorry, I was wrong here. So 2 indicators of Ukrainian plan, and if we perform that, we will get money from the European Union. They talk about this reform. 1 indicator of the roadmap is already done. 1 is still on the way. It's implementation of the roadmap. Once again, there are lots of steps, and frankly speaking, previous year, it was this reform that was making us happy. You know, there are some reforms we were saying that this is not performed, this is not done. Really, here during the year, a lot has been done, and we need to indicate that it is really great positive aspect. It is actually that case when the government wants, the parliament supports, and international partners support as well. So financial, technical support, and so on and so forth. In December 2023, the roadmap was approved. After that, Strategic Investment Council was created that defines what projects to finance and what money should be given to. Then later in June, The action plan was made. So according to this action plan, we have three main players responsible for its implementation. It's Ministry of Finances, it is Ministry of Economy, and Ministry of Development of Communities and Territories. In September 2024, Strategic Investment Council approved the single project portfolio. Maybe you have heard it, single project pipeline. It is actually this pipeline of projects that are going to be financed if money available. But since the time was limited and budget process already was on, the projects were collected for pretty limited amount of time, but still, with all of that, communities had 600 something projects, 3 trillion of revenues for financing. These are huge money. We understand that we do not have such financing. That's why we need prioritization. Because there are too many projects, needs are extremely high. That's why we need to choose. 90 projects were selected. Part of them are under financed right now, so there are no money for that. But in the budget, we already have 25 billion hryvnias for such project and investment. 36, I'm corrected here, 36. See, it's good to have the head of budget committee next to you. But we needed financing is more than 200 billion for this product. So financing should come from our international financial organizations. And here the main importance of this matter is that when we are talking about financing of recovery, different investment projects today, financing is coming from international financial organizations. These are World Bank, European Investment Bank. We do not have that much money from our state budget because we are spending our money that we are in Ukraine for defense and safety. In November, the World Bank announced about the starting of the project and the help in the implementation of the reform. It will be extremely important. In January 2025, extremely important changes were introduced to the code, and it introduced new terminology, new procedures concerning how the process of public investment management is going to take place. I hope that representatives of the Ministry of Finances will tell more about it. What is important that in one of the recommendations of the World Bank, it was a creation of a digital platform of management. As of now, we already have a structural beacon that is mentioned there that we need to create a T platform to manage this system of public investment. And the difference here that already now in Dream platform, if you don't know, it is a digital platform of recovery. So before there were only recovery projects, but now it is also tab called projects of public investments. And here it is transparent, and you can see the whole range of projects submitted by communities. You can see it by sector. You can see what projects were selected. There are indicators, so it's already transparent. We still do not have module of self-management so that we can look at this or that project at certain stage, what was financed, what was not financed, but it is still going to be added. Whether it's going to be Dream or it's going to be different system, we're still waiting for the final decision. Maybe a Ministry of Finances or maybe Oleksandra will come and tell us, so we will find out. If to talk about those projects that applied, this is one peculiarity that lots of projects do not are not ready actually to procurement. So it is just initial concepts, and we understand ourselves that if we worked on this or that project, that the price might change. Can we still have the next slide? The one with yellow graphs, yes, that's one. So here you can see what stage is on what projects on what stage. Transport services. At the same time, to talk about financing, it's understandable that the biggest amount of projects with financing was about actually sector of energy and recovery, because energy sector, it is understandable priorities that have to be financed. It has to be financed because it's about the resilience of our country.
І просто як підсумувати, тобто реформа,
And
як
just to sum
очікується,
up, the
вона спростить
reform
процедури прийняття
it
рішень.
will simplify the decision-making process. It will unify approaches, so it will be clear for us how everything is selected. For criteria for 2025 were approved, but we are still waiting for the final decision based on the analysis of what has been done this year. We will have IT environment created, but I would like to mention here that since we are talking about the importance of the fact that we are going to have projects of recovery, and very often it's about construction. And I would like to mention here that we need to change a lot in the sphere of construction so that the system of public investment management system starts properly. So first of all, we need to understand what is the capacity of the places to prepare projects, because the analysis done by us shows that capacity is very different. Some communities just cannot work on the project, but their need on financing is huge. So if everything is based on such projects, those who apply those get financing, then those communities that need funds the most will be without such funds. In construction, we need to change certain decrease. So if we're talking about now, it's 16,000 salary should be only, but we understand that it is not realistic salary. We need to introduce certain changes here. And also we need to change legislation concerning other matters, procurements of services, and the ministry is working now on the addition of central procurement, but it will start only if we deal with everything in construction spheres. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Oleksandra. And you see that as of now, the situation is such that we start solving one problem, and in many cases, we have to deal with and to solve bigger problems in interconnected areas. I'm really grateful for Oleksiy Sobolev, First Deputy Minister of Economy of Ukraine, managed to join us. We are really grateful and we appreciate Oleksiy's participation in such discussion. It is interesting and important, and I hope the ministry as well. And when we are talking about public investments, we understand that we have lack of funds and needs, and we're talking about criteria meetings. That's Oleksiy. Please talk us what criteria we all need to use to be as effective as possible in using available funds, and we will never have enough of them. It's clear, please. Well, at the beginning, the most important thing, it seems to me, is that presence of projects. So this capacity to prepare projects that are bankable, that are prepared on the level of TIO, it is very low. So because there are lots of projects that exist now in the single project pipeline. So it's called project preparation facility. So it's group of finances and special mechanisms that are going to help prepare projects that are in priority. Now this prioritization is going through ministries, and they're also preparing them right now. But the general logic isn't just strategic planning. So it's two parallel processes. We can't wait for the reform to finish, and we already need to build it right now. But how it's going to be in the future, I hope that we will get back to, we will get to it in the next years when we have long-term strategy, for example, for 14 years ahead, and there will be specific indicators, not a lot, but we imagine that there will be 20, let's say, that countries should reach. So, for example, that education is safe, and this is our level of coverage. And from that, we will have sectoral strategies for the performance of such indicators. Ministry of Education, for example, is preparing strategy of education or updating it for 7 years ahead. And after that, there will be project certain list of projects. So, for example, those schools that do not have bomb shelters need to upgrade those schools And after that, for 3 years, there will be plans of investment connected with our strategic budget planning, and that will be updated every year. So accordingly, when Ministry of Education community submit and apply their projects, they will be assessed based on achieving strategic aims. And then we all will understand what and where we build if new political power came to force, change some kind of indicators. They say we are building this, and the whole system updated strategic project. That's in the future. So we have strategies. We do not have a super long strategy, but we have plan of Ukraine for 4 years. And now we are approving methodologies. There is the manual for the whole list of projects for the whole country. It has never existed before. So for the next budget season, we will arrange projects accordingly to Ukrainian plan, first and foremost, because it is the most systematic document of economic development that is not always does not only have our wish, but also donors' money. So we are already agreeing with donors, and we always mention it in all the discussions. And when they finance some kind of the projects that want to be done by the government and Ukraine, they have to be in that list of strategic project. That's why in spring we will update it. We will arrange according to achievement of goals of Ukrainian plan and in sectoral strategies developed already. Methodology will be also updated for all of this, and these projects which are strategic but right now more as a concept, there will be special mechanisms. Why? One will be with the help of the World Bank and our donor countries. It will be built on the basis of Ministry of Economy. There will be consultants that will be working on the project at the level of tender documentation so that they can be announced. Another is working with the heart of EIP and EBRD. From their side, they will also work as the same more or less consultant that will be preparing projects that later can be financed by anyone, the state, budget, and so on. This is our task for this year. And at the end, I would like to mention that we are also, for example, we have project with World Bank. It's called ICANN. We have been trying to launch it for the last half year, and it should teach people in regions to prepare such project. But it's moving very slowly, and it's actually not even ours. It's from neighboring ministry. But we, as co-leaders of this reform, it is extremely important for us to have lots of quality projects because it is important for donors. They are ready to finance them, but pretty often we face with such a problem that projects are just not ready. Thank you. Before moving on, Oleksy, I would like to ask you, I can't help myself, but I want to ask you this half provocative question. As far as I understand, we're on the first stage right now. The first stage, we are preparing projects, we are developing certain criteria, we are raising money for that, collecting money. So we launch this investment project. But when the implementation of projects start, very often there is a problem with their implementation. Are there any mechanisms of responsibility of those who are going to implement such projects for wrongly used funds or for not achieving set goals? So roughly speaking, are we going to have some underdevelopments in those projects that we are implementing right now? Well, it's not a question to us. Majority of the projects, well, Ministry of Economy is between, in the middle of the project, because we almost do not have our own project, but we are helping to organize the system. So lots of projects has Ministry of Recovery, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education. It is everything that is needed to be built, and everything is mostly there. So it's better to ask them. Okay, thank you. Let's move on. So when we are talking about public investment management, we also need to talk the Ministry of Finances. And as you know, in the middle of January, certain changes to the budget code were introduced. I hope that Yaroslav Tashuta is with us today. He is the Deputy Public Investment Management. Yes, I'm here. Thank you, the Ministry of Finances. Yes, then we have the question to you. What changes were those? What they can bring us, and there are going to be some financial punishments for those who are underperforming project-wise. First and foremost, we would like to tell you that changes to budget code became the basis of basis for forming further system of public investment management system, because they have such a combination of budget planning and investment component. It is obvious that because of the fact that we united such processes, we are expecting that responsibility of those who are going to deal with money, those who are going to implement, perform the projects, also going to be obvious and understandable for everyone that the projects that they committed to do will be presented in a dream, in a single information system. We plan to have it this way, so everything is going to be public, transparent. Everyone will see what's going on with the projects. Everyone will see how everything is financed. Everyone will see how the decision is made concerning this or that project. So we are actually set on planning the matter of public investment in a complex way. So it will not be some kind of financing from budget in various mechanisms, various formats, or with the help of international partners, or with the usage of funds, or the public-private partnership. No, it's all going to be single base, single methodology, single requirements, single place where all the projects are going to be reflected and shown, and participation of the public and opportunity to check every project by communities, the possibility to check what is going on will be the basis, and everyone will understand that if you take on yourself implementation of the project, you need to show the result. And obviously, as it has been rightfully mentioned by Oleksandra, the most important thing in this matter is the matter of preparation of the project, because we are expecting that we will not be asking people why we have some problems, but already at the stage of preparing of the project, we will have such conditions so that the project is well calculated, well thought, also that all risks are calculated, so that the matter of certain underachievements or underperformance already on the level of forecasting should be calculated. And this system, this approach to public investment management is actually directed towards the fact that when we have the matter of investment, we need to look at it in a complex way. So starting from the appearance of need, forming of the ideas, preparation of the project, assessment, calculation, how it's going to be implemented, how it's going to be financed, how it's going to be monitored, how the results will be assessed. So in all these stages, we need constant attention on the project, constant control from the side of the beneficiaries that are taking part. So here, we actually shouldn't catch and punish, but we need to prevent such things and create such a mechanism that will make such cases impossible. Thank you. Thank you, and we see that actually when we are talking about state governance, that everybody of state governance has their own sphere of responsibility. The Ministry of Economy is trying to launch this process, finances everything connected with budget money. It is a matter of the Ministry of Finances. We would also, of course, like to have someone from the Ministry of Development today as well, because practically all the projects are implemented on the fields, in particular communities, and it is extremely important to understand what is going on there. But we have one more institution that is taking final decision concerning our budget. I'm talking about Roxolana, that everything depends on her. So that's why I would like to make this question a little bit narrower. So we are talking right now about the projects. We are talking about various changes. that were taking place in the budget code. So how this changes from your point of view might influence effectiveness of state investments, the mechanisms of their allocation, because we have experience of funding the Fund of Regional Development with all the consequences. So how to do it so that we can use limited funds, and we will never have enough of them, but how we can use them as effectively as possible. So, Roxana, please. Thank you. Thanks a lot for this invitation. It's a great pleasure for me to be here today. I'm not responsible for all the beacons that we have in IMF, but I'm voting for all of them. So those that are going through Verkhovna Rada. In budget committee, we had 5 beacons, it seems to me 5 or 6 within the program with IMF. And it seems to me that the budget code was the most complicated beacon that we had to vote on. First and foremost, because, and it is the main thing for us, for some, when it was in the negative aspect, for me personally, it was positive. But the main thing that this budget code done, it's depopularized the process of project selections. Not completely, because in the cabinet of ministers, we have internal policy and internal competition between ministers. Sorry for talking about this that directly, and between ministries, but even that mechanism that is offered right now, where in fact all the government that is in strategic investment council will collectively make decisions concerning which projects are going to be financed, already decreases this competition, and it's already clear which subvention should have more funds allocated, and that might lead to the fact that we will have less underperformances that Ihor was talking about, because one of the reasons why such underperformances appear, that's actually then in 1 year, in 2 years, there is no opportunity to finance. There is the new authorities not want to finance this or that project, or from the side of the Ministry of Finances, because they think that these projects are not relevant, or for example, Ministry of Development, the ministry changes and ministry thinks that some other regions should be supported, not these regions, different projects, for example, some other types of projects, not those that were supported previously. But we are also politicized to this process, if to talk about the participation of people deputies. You know that majority, well, not majority, but any kind of subvention that is in the state budget can be allocated with the help of the commission, where before 2022, where all of this was stopped before because of the hostilities, each commission, based on the decision of Verkhovna Rada, actually while voting for state budget, consists of mostly people deputies, where 50% plus 1 participant of commission were people deputies. That's how they could, well, it's not that they could, but they were in majority, if to talk about the amount of votes of the representatives of government, and they could influence significantly location of objects already in some kind of subvention. I am not going to, well, I will try to be diplomatic. That's not all deputies were using such reliabilities in a proper way, and very often it was used for lobbying their own interests. Not always is a corruption interest. I'm not going to say that every case is a corruption. Sometimes it's just political lobbyism when person lobbying some kind of object because it's her district. The matter whether it's effective and whether it is fair. I'm not going to talk about fairness right now, because when we have this discussion in the parliament, my colleagues always tell me that look at the USA, they also have majoritarian system, and they also have majoritarians lobbying for their projects, and money allocated from the federal budget for that in their districts. So the matter of fairness we are not going to discuss here today. I just want to focus on the effectiveness here, because I think that when people deputies interfere into objects reallocation, it is not effective. Most probably it is not in accordance accordance to the strategy approved by the government elected by these people deputies, and pretty often it's just some kind of random objects in their districts that they consider in need of financing. And most often than not, these objects these objects are not finished if the deputy does not have continuation of such financing. The same position was taken by International Monetary Fund. I think that we cannot open the curtains here a little bit. We were talking with the head of the mission of the International Monetary Fund in Ukraine, and they directly told us in written form that they think that the participation people deputies in allocation of objects for investment, well, it's not objects, it's investment projects, and they are not going to presuppose already certain objects in the stage of decision-making process by Strategic Investment Council. So the ministry itself within investment project will select which objects to finance. But nevertheless, IMF is against participation of people deputies in allocation of such investment projects because they consider that it might make the process too political and it decreases the transparency of the process. It is actually a quotation, so I cannot say that I have made something up. Priscilla can back me up here. I hope that answered the question whether we consider that it might help and whether we think that this code will help effectiveness. The only thing that I would like to say that it is probably not the last change to the budget code in the sphere of public investment management, because it is a new process and lots of things, you know, that first allocation was taking place without the law, but based on sub-laws approved by the government. The second process will take place within the new law, and we will see what we didn't, what works a little bit different than Ministry of Finance thought when they were writing this code. Thank you. Really, we have lots of questions here connected with the fact that lots of things have to be regulated fast, taking into account our current situation. That's why really, if you open budget code of Ukraine, then there are several pages, the list and amendments that were introduced here and there, and obviously it is the process. Let's hope that really funds will be used effectively, because as of now, the matter of effectiveness is a matter of our arguments, with some kind of trumps concerning how they can trust us with money and how we can use. It is pretty difficult topic, and we will get back to it, because the matter of effectiveness and responsibilities appear in our diplomatic and non-diplomatic meetings with our partners. We actually introduced all the materials that we wanted to present. We talked a little bit about public investments, and now we have a little bit of time for Q&A session. So let's do it the following way. So I have several questions that we got online. I will read some of them out, and please then our colleagues from the government and maybe those who have already spoken today to answer them. And at the same time, we are going to take questions from the audience. So maybe, no, let's do it in a different way. Concerning investments, if you have certain questions from the audience, please stand up, specific question, we will try to answer them. And that's how we are going to have effective and very interesting discussion of lot of very complicated problems. Who's ready? Roxolana raised her hand. I thought that she had a question on investment. I was a little bit scared. Yes, Viktor Muzarchuk, I have several questions, and I wanted to start from the basic one. I constantly ask it how to trust information generated by the government. What do I mean? That now we have lots of information that is going to be uploaded to Dream, and that's great, and all investment projects, not all investment projects should be there. I, as a person that is using lots of data and constantly working with it, I, in one place, want to take data and then do something with it. Does ministry plan to raise the matter of responsibility for data that is going to be used in various state registers? I'm not talking about the DREAM and ProZorro and so on and so
Друге
forth.
питання, воно
But the second
слідує за цим. Facility.
question goes after
Частина
this one.
грошей з
It's about
facility
facility.
йде на
Part of money from
фінансування
Ukraine facility
бізнесу.
goes to business
Яким
financing.
чином
How,
ми, як умовно,
we,
там, громадська організація,
as
яким
NGO,
чином
let's say,
уряд
how
буде
the
дивитися,
government
на що
will be
будуть
looking
використовуватись ці кошти, наскільки вони
at
будуть
what
ефективно використовуватись.
and
Мені цікавить просто трек грошей.
what these funds are going to be used for. And it's interesting for me, this tracking of funds is interesting for me. I see that my question concerning responsibility found its reflection in the hearts of people. So maybe someone would like to answer. And Yaroslav actually is here with us on the line. So if Yaroslav has the desire to say something, we will give him the floor as well. So I see that Oleksandra is ready to be responsible. Yes, so concerning registers, those registers that we are responsible for, the responsibility is written, and everything that is in the DREAM, based on that data, there will be assessment of compliance to priorities, sectoral strategies, and so on and so forth. So if they are not real, then the assessments will be different as well. And then the projects will not be implemented and people will not get money. Concerning Ukraine facility, we have quarterly reviews of such programs through public events as well. We are constantly getting information through Eurocommission. Money of Ukraine facility, they go through international financial institutions and organizations of development of European countries. And we get data from them. Sometimes they are in partnership with Ukrainian banks. So in such aggregated mode, we are collecting data from them. And we have absolutely no problems with this publication. We will try to see how to do it on the website ukrainefacility.me.ua.
Так, дякую, можливо. Да.
Я можу сказати, що
Так, будь ласка, Ярославе.
I would like to say also about the first question and the reliability of information. Our main idea was to unite all possible registers on the basis of DREAM so that exchange of information or adding of some information can be as automated as possible, so that it is not just some kind of, while typing about some project, someone decided to add something and it's impossible to check this information. No, it will be full automatization. So if there is some kind of link to expertise documents and so on, and then everything should be interrelated, interconnected. So that's how we expect that big volumes of information will be verified, and it will decrease the volume of possible unreliable data concerning the projects.
Добре, дякую, але в цьому зв'язку в мене ще
Okay,
питання
thank you,
просто
but I
виникло, так
have
мовити,
another
по ходу. Да,
question
Дмитро, у вас було
concerning
питання,
that.
так?
It just appeared. Dmitro, you had the question.
Да, всі будуть виступати, хто,
Everyone is going to
хто зголосився, хто
to
тут сидить.
talk.
Да? А
Those
якщо ми
who are
говоримо
here.
взагалі про державні
If we are talking about state register and all of these things, there are something was open, something was closed, and I have the question to the government. Maybe you have found some golden medium of happy medium of providing information so that we know who is introducing changes, and of course the matter of cybersecurity. The last attacks on our state registers, it's a little bit tense if to talk about the trust of information, because someone can introduce something wrong here or or find something wrong here. It's maybe not really correct question, but it's really important one.
Мін'юсту, да. А,
That's
Саша
the
бере на себе
question to the Ministry of Justice. Okay, Sasha is going to be responsible for registers.
No,
No, I'm not going to be responsible for registers. I just want to say that it is also the member of Rights Coalition, and we have pretty good statement concerning open data, and we would like to offer the government to use three-stage test to understand whether to open or to close the data. So to analyze whether the data are really the data is really risky, whether if not to close them, maybe at least we can have we might create risk. Or if something is closed, when we need to explain. So far, the government is not using this test, and usually, if some kind of data is closed, it's just explained by the rules of safety. In energy, they also closed some kind of data on the cost of energy, explaining this by safety risks, even though all experts in the sphere of energy mentioned that there are no risks there. But once again, by the way, I really support this question of Victor concerning reliability of data and Dream or somewhere else, because there is no system of verification so far, but we hope that it will appear in this public investment management system reform. So, okay, so do we have some further questions? Dmitro, you had the question, please. I have the question maybe not only to this panel, but to the previous as well. We are talking here about Ukraine facility here, but I have the question concerning IRA, those 50 billion. Do we have understanding how this money going to be allocated? Because from the very beginning, it has been mentioned that these funds will go to the budget financing and military financing and recovery programs. So the same public investment. So who is the leader in the process of disseminating that money, allocating that money, and what parts of these funds really can go to that project that you are talking about here and next year? So you understand, since Roxolana has the mic, she knows. Now we need to understand that all these funds go directly to the budget, so they are going to be allocated by the Ministry of Finances. So far, we have only proof of the UK, so their money can be used for defense. It's $3 billion, 90 billion, almost, well, $3 billion. We introduced them to the budget for 2025 when we were voting for this in the second reading. It is now mentioned in the line procurement and modernization of military equipment. We definitely know that money from the World Bank of 100% cannot be used for the defense needs, so we will use them for social and humanitarian needs, first and foremost for pensions and salaries, so for public officials. Concerning the money of the European Union, you know that they added, they promised to add to what we like about after those $50 billion. Here we do not have exact answer, but since it is micro financing support, most probably they also cannot be used for the needs of defense. Funds of Canada and Japan will also go through. They will also go through the World Bank, and they also cannot be spent for defense purposes. But if to talk about European funds, they might be able to use for such recovery projects in some kind of small amount. But as Oleksandra has rightfully mentioned, we shouldn't think that such funds will be allocated from the budget in 2025-2026 for recovery in big amounts, because 36 billion that we allocated for 2025, I think that within that number it will fluctuate, because for 2026 we have practically no commitments concerning external financing, and I personally support this opinion that ERA funds, this over surplus of funds that we saw on one of the slides, should be moved to 2026.
Чутно мене, да, будь ласка, да,
Yes, please. Do we have any other questions? Please ask them.
Добре.
Okay, then we got also several questions online. Let me just take one or two of the general questions. So the question, maybe it's not to participants, but still, what's with our debt burden and how our debt strategy is working, the strategy of external debt management, because everything we are talking about leads to certain problems. If there is someone here ready to answer this question, Roxolana, do we have external debt? But please be frank here. Yes, but by the way, we expect for it to decrease in 2025 95, if I'm not mistaken, to 97% from GDP. But of course, the debt is there, it is increasing, and for us, it is a great success that Ihor is not going to be counted in state debt. We are not going to write it there. It's not going to be counted in the budget as our external state debt, but all the other funds that we are getting from the European Union, from International Monetary Fund, of course, it is increase of our debt. And here we can only express our gratitude to the European Union for providing us subsidies, for paying out interest on those loans that are coming within Ukraine facility, but it is still huge amount of money that we will need to get back,
Дякую, Олександр.
to return. Okay, thank you, Alexandra. You wanted
Да,
to
я хотіла
comment
сказати,
something?
що
Yes, I
ми
just
зараз
wanted to
навели свій
say
прогноз. Нас
that
виходить
we
навіть
have
менше,
updated
ніж
our
зараз
forecast.
Роксолана
It is
сказала,
even
буде
less
до
than
ВВП,
what
саме за
Roxolana
рахунок
has
того,
mentioned,
що ера
because
враховується як гранти.
IRA
І це ми
is
бачили в
calculated as
поновленому, в
grants,
принципі,
and
прогнозі
we
Національного банку
saw this in
України.
the
Там вже
updated
пішла
forecast of the National Bank of Ukraine. We
рекласифікація
already have the
ери, тобто
reclassification
раніше це
of
було
IRA.
приписано
Before
по позиках, зараз це гранти. В
it
результаті
was just as loans,
Національний
now it's
банк
grants.
очікує
So as a
навіть
result, National
додатнього
Bank is
зросту
expecting to
поточного
have
рахунку. У
even
нас він
positive
трошки
saldo of
мінусовий,
our current
але в
account. Right now
принципі дуже
it's
низький. Тому
negative, but
ера
pretty
нам
low.
якраз
So
допомагає
IRA will
фінансувати
help us
взагалі платіжний
to
баланс, що є дуже
finance
позитивним.
payment balance, and
Тобто у
it
нас
is really
резерви від
positive
Національного банку дуже
matter. So
хороші.
reserves of the
Це
National
просто для
Bank
того,
will be
щоб
really good. So
макроекономічний
that's
ефект
just to
сказати.
see this
А з
macroeconomic
приводу
effect.
ще
And
боргової стратегії
concerning
хочу сказати, що в нас
that strategy, I
цього
also
року
would
є
like to mention that
індикатор
this year we
по
have
оновленню
indicator on
стратегії,
updating
середньострокової
the
стратегії
strategy
управління державним боргом.
of
Тобто це буде займатися Міністерство
state
фінансів, оскільки
that
попередня стратегія, яка була ухвалена, вона
say
передбачала,
that
що Україна
because the Ministry of
проводить
Finances will be
реструктуризацію,
dealing
і
with
після
this,
цього
because the
оновить
previous strategy
стратегію.
presupposed that there will be
Тому цього року ще буде дуже цікаве
restructuralization and
завдання
then
перед Мінфіном і
updated strategy.
складне
So Ministry of Finances will have
ухвалити
an
нову
interesting and
стратегію. Чому?
complicated
Тому
task
що
to
останній
also
меморандум
adopt new
якраз
strategy, because the
Міжнародного
last
валютного фонду
memorandum of
передбачає
International
так званий
Monetary Fund
secondary debt
presupposes
restructuring,
so-called
тобто
secondary debt
повторна ніби
restructuring.
як
So
має бути
it's like
реструктуризація боргу. Не цього року,
restructuring of
зрозуміло,
the
це буде
debt.
пізніше,
Not this
але
year, of
якраз
course, it's going to take place
це
later,
буде, скажімо
but
так,
it
основним
is
викликом, я думаю,
going
при
to be the main
ухваленні
challenge, I
цієї
think, while
стратегії і виконанні
adopting
цього
this
індикатора.
strategy and performing this indicator.
Дякую. Так, якщо не
Thank
з'явилися
you.
питання,
And
я
if we
тоді
have
ще
no
одне
further
питання хотів
questions,
би
I would like
підняти.
to read
Не
out
знаю, до
one
кого
more
його
question. I
адресувати.
don't know who
Давайте так,
I
от
should
питання
address
до
it to,
авторів
but the
моніторингу,
question to the
до вас, до
authors of
всіх,
the
тому що
monitoring, to all
багато
of us,
питань, які
because
надійшли, вони
there are lots
фактично,
of
з моєї
questions
точки
that they
зору,
come, in my
вимагають
opinion,
відповіді на
they
те,
require
як це все робиться,
answer on how
наскільки
everything
детально ми
is done
розбираємося,
and
ті чи інші процеси.
whether we understand
Зрозуміло, що
all these
кожен кобяк
processes.
це
Of course, it is
фактично
clear
дуже складна
that
сфера окремої економічної
every
політики
beacon is a
з'ясувати
very
відповідними
complicated
наслідками.
sphere
Тому
of
я хотів би
policy
підняти
with
питання, за якими даними взагалі,
and
як
that's
робиться
why I want to ask
моніторинг,
the question
щоб ми
how the
були,
monitoring is done, based on which
як це
data,
краще сказати,
so
свідомі
that we
того,
are all
який це
conscious
продукт
of
і що
what
від нього
product it is
очікувати. Бо
and
дуже
what should
багато
we
питань
expect from
абсолютно
it. Because
конкретне.
lots
Коли
of questions
відкриються
are
якісь
very
тендери,
specific,
коли
when some
започнуться якісь
tenders are going
конкурси
to
і
be
так далі,
opened, when
на
some
які нам, чесно
competitions
кажучи,
will
важко
start.
відповісти, і
And
багато
it's
цих
pretty
питань
difficult for us to
треба
answer
адресувати
these
конкретним
questions,
урядовим
and lots of
структурам,
them we need
які
to address
займаються
to
цими
specific
питаннями.
government
Отже,
structures dealing with
питання
such matters. So
методології,
the question
питання
of
даних і
methodology, the
питання
question
взагалі,
of data, and the question
як ми це все робимо. Так,
how we are doing all of that.
де, хто?
So who's going to tackle? Maybe
No,
Yaroslav wants to
first of-
answer.
А якщо йдеться про наш моніторинг, знову
If
ж
we are
таки,
talking
ми
about
говоримо
our
зараз про
monitoring,
моніторинг
once
виконання
again,
умов
we are
програми.
talking about monitoring of
Програма МВФ відкритий
the
план
program.
України
So IMF,
ухвалений, тобто там є індикатори.
the
Уряду
Ukraine
дуже
plan is
вдячна, я би
adopted.
хотіла
I'm
потім
really
передати слово
grateful to the
ще
government. I
Олексію,
would like
щоб
to
він
give the floor to
розказав про
Alexei later
урядовий
so that he
моніторинг,
can
тому що
talk about
якраз
government
Міністерство
monitoring,
економіки
because actually
відповідає за
Ministry of
урядовий,
Economy is
скажімо так,
responsible
моніторинг
for
виконання
this
українських, а не МВФ.
state
МВФ – це
economy of
Міністерство
Ukraine facility,
фінансів.
not IMF. IMF is
Але
Ministry of
ми
Finances.
дуже
But
часто, в принципі, користуємося
pretty
Matrix
often
of
we are
Reform, це окремо
using
є веб-сайт.
Matrix of Reforms. It is a
Ми
separate website. We are
користуємося
using
сайтом плану України,
website of
тобто це
Ukrainian
уряд
plan.
запустив справді
So
дуже зручні
the
інструменти
government
для того,
launched
щоб можна
really
було дивитися, як уряд оцінює
comfortable
за виконання
tools
тих
so
чи
that
інших
we can see
індикаторів.
how the
В
government
нас були
assesses the
випадки,
performance
коли
of
ми,
these or that
наприклад, не
indicators. We
враховували
had
якийсь
cases
індикатор
when
як
we
виконаний, і
didn't
враховували
take
його
some kind of indicator
виконаний
as
європейський
performed, as
Союз
the
напис,
government
тому
considered
що ми
as
хотіли
performed, and
чогось
the European
більшого.
Union as well. It's just we wanted
Але
something more.
фактично
But
одна з
in
проблем,
fact,
наприклад,
one of the
того, що ми
problems,
бачили по
for
свідомий
example, of what
індикатор
we
плану
saw,
України,
especially
це,
in
наприклад,
indicators in the
визначення
Ukrainian
набуття
plan,
чинності
it's, for
закону.
example,
Тобто зовсім нещодавно вносили зміни,
when
наприклад, в
the
закон
law
про
comes into
дошкільну освіту,
force. For example,
тому що
recently
він набував
changes
чинності
were
після воєнного
introduced
стану.
to
А в
three be to preschool education because it had to come into force after martial law. But it is indicated, it is written clearly that it should come into force in this or that quarter, and the government should pay attention to this. We were arguing in the monitoring group whether should we consider it as performed or not, because not the whole law came into force, but one article did. So once again, it is such an arguable matter, but maybe Oleksiy can talk about it a little bit more because they are doing a lot in the sphere of monitoring. Before Oleksiy starts answering, I immediately would like to draw attention of Yaroslav because there is a question to him concerning the national strategy of income, because Ministry of Finances should not relax. After this transfer, I will have to leave you. Thank you for the invitation. We are proud of the monitoring of Ukrainian plan. Fortunately or unfortunately, it has to be very thorough. We always have to understand what stage of indicators, some of them, especially this year, are very complex. And if something is not done right now, then we understand that there will be problems in the third quarter. That's why we are tracking all of it, and also on our website, and our site is integrated automatically with the metrics of reform. Everything is updated there. It seems to me that it is great capacity of the government to do all of that. Concerning the status of indicator performance, I would like to mention that right now we submitted to the European Commission the report that we have performed all indicators of the first quarter. I hope that the result of the assessment will be positive from them. Of course, we are in constant contact with them, and when it happens, it will be the first case, I don't know in how many years, that Ukraine promised something and word by word performed everything. Even something can be changed because the war is going on. No, but no, Ukrainian plan is not working. That's why it's very legally. All country members agreed to that, and it cannot be changed. It cannot be negotiated additionally. So what is written, what was written there 1 year ago, that Ukraine, for the first time, if to talk about macrofinance support of the European Union, it will be the first that we performed fully. And it really shows Ukraine in good light, because yes, it's politically difficult, it is economically difficult, but we managed to do it, and our task is to keep on moving this way. So that's why everything that is written in an indicator, the way it is written in an indicator, that's how it should be done. And that's what European Commission takes into account. So if to talk about coming into force, if there is some position from the indicator that for Europe and for us are written there, they're the most important, if they are performed, then the indicator is considered to be performed, even though there might be some norms that were not so important when we were writing Ukraine plan. They may come into force a little bit later. It's already Ukrainian discretion. And separately, we are also building monitoring together with Verkhovna Rada on not changing of what is already done, because deputies have legislative initiatives. They can introduce changes to whatever they want, and sometimes it covers the norms that Ukraine promised, performed, and cannot change. And the program with IMF is narrower if to talk about spheres, but Ukrainian plan is really wide. So we need to, we are working great with Verkhovna Rada right now to even know what project of law, maybe they will not be even voted, but for us to know, and so that we can tell our partners in advance so that they know the reaction, and also can provide feedback through the apparatus of council that your amendment, for example, violating our commitment. Try to see how it can be done a different way. Thank you. Thank you, Oleksiy. Thanks a lot. So now let's tackle one more question, and after that we will try to sum up. So I already mentioned that there will be questions to the Ministry of Finances. There are several questions concerning the general income strategy. So the first question is how it is done and how it is being implemented. And the question is that its strategy of income presupposed reforming of a tax and the custom service. And on this basis, there is a change of our tax legislation, increase of taxes. So according to the person who asked this question, it did not take place. So Yaroslav, please. So what's going on with our national strategy and priority of performing of some provisions? I'm actually, I would gladly tell a little bit more about public management investment, but Unfortunately, I do not have such a deep knowledge about general income strategy, but I can say that Ministry of Finances is providing reports right now, and it will be in March, so all the information will be reflected there. Just wait a little bit, and we will see what is in that report. Thank you. Thank you. So, dear colleagues, we are coming to logical end of our work. We listened to Ukrainian experts, we listened to ourselves, we listened to Ukrainian public officials and lawmakers. And to wrap up our work, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Priscilla Tofana, who is the IMF resident representative in Ukraine. Priscilla, please, the floor is yours. I actually wanted to ask you several questions, but taking into account your diplomatic status, I'm not going to do that. So, Ms. Priscilla, what do you think about all of this in International Monetary Fund?
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you, Igor, Alexandra. Thank you very much, everyone. I know many of you, but not all of you. I'm the IMF resident representative as of September, so thank you very much. Second thing, I am delighted by how closely you analyze the IMF program and yeah, what we do here in general. I feel you are incredibly informed, and it's really a pleasure to discuss with all of you our conditionality. So I already see, we are at the end. I already see the buffet just in front of me there. So I'll be short and I'll tell a couple of stories. So the first story that I want to tell you is about the white elephants. So I'm pretty sure everyone knows about what the white elephants are, but I would like nonetheless to remind you of that. So the term white elephant originates from Southeast Asia, where rare white elephants were considered sacred and were given by kings as a gift. So while receiving a white elephant was seen as a sign of the king's favor, it was a burden for the person receiving it because it was incredibly expensive to maintain the elephant, and it was not terribly useful to keep one. So in the modern use of this term, we use a white elephant to describe any investment that is costly to maintain and that fails to deliver proportional benefits or actually any benefit at all. So there are many examples in the world about white elephants. I'm sure there are many examples in Ukraine as well. At the beginning, I wanted to mention a couple that I saw walking through Kiev, but it's better if I abstain. In any case, it is clear that white elephants are not only a waste of public resources, but they also present an opportunity for corruption. So in a way, I would say that with this story, I'm giving you the background on why the public investment management reform, which is underway in Ukraine, is important, and the reason why the IMF program has been supporting this reform, the IMF, so the public investment management roadmap and the action plan since the start of our program. This reform also gets to Ukraine at a quite pivotal moment of the country. Like, you have not much fiscal space, and at the same time, a very big demand of investment for this monumental task that is going to be recovery and reconstruction. So when reconstruction starts for real, hopefully soon, the space for mismanagement and financial misconduct will only grow. And the task to prevent those mismanagement and misconduct is challenging. And we believe that strengthening institutions is #1 priority. And on that, we would like to give our support to the government's determination to do so, basically to strengthen institutions. And one example of this determination to strengthen institutions, I think, was mentioned by Roxolana just a few minutes ago, and it relates to the changes to the budget code. So we know how much political capital this took, and we know the attempts of vested interests to derail that, and we would like to congratulate the government for these changes to the budget code. We also support collaboration between the institutions that are very nicely represented here. Okay, Alexi, Ministry of Finance, left, but we have Yaroslav, hopefully still online. Then Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Finance, Ministry for Communities and Territories Development, and the Strategic Investment Council. So the collaboration among these institutions, we see it as crucial to basically bring home this public investment management reform. Another priority that we see is like the training of staff in these institutions. And talking about training of staff, I would like to get to the last anecdote, with which I will conclude, more or less. So, as you know, we started the training of public investment management related staff in Vienna. We have a representative office in Vienna that now actually is an office that gives technical assistance to Ukraine. So at some point I was there for a technical assistance mission on public investment management, and I was kind of fascinated by one Ukrainian official who told me the story of a medium-sized city in Ukraine where a military unit happened to be garrisoned, and how this city experienced an increase in public income tax because military remuneration increased after the start of the war. However, the government of this city could not think about a way to invest this extra money more than building a stadium, which apparently was accommodating more people than the inhabitants itself. And this project made it to the platform Prozoro, so I think that the public got to know it, and then there were some protests. And so this potential white elephant was, let's say, killed in the cradle, and public income tax generated from the military nationwide was concentrated into the central budget. So in my opinion, this story shows a few things. The first one is the importance of having a public investment strategy, which is able to prioritize projects in a coherent way. And I think this has been said by Oleksandra, by Alexi, by every one of us here, like how important it is to have a strategy that prioritizes the right projects for the communities. Then the importance of having a procurement system that collects all information so that actually the public can see that in a transparent way and, supervise. And also the magnitude of the political repercussions that can derive from public investment choices. So just to give you what the IMF will do on public investment management in the near future, which was a point that the panel asked me to touch on. So in our next mission, which is going to be at the end of February, we will assess the action plan for the public investment management reform, which was part of our conditionality. We will discuss new conditionality. We will discuss the key priorities for the single project pipeline process as part of the 2026-28 budget declaration, and also next year's annual budget. And we'll review the progress on this action plan to strengthen medium-term budgetary framework, which I also think was mentioned by Oleksandra before. So this last point shows in a way how we don't see this public investment management reform as something, a solo reform in a way, but how we see it as connected, very correlated to other areas, for example, capital budgeting, medium-term budget framework, given that large investment projects will happen in multiple years, but also capital markets reform, since capital markets will have to be ready to finance complex projects, both at the central and the local levels. So let me stop here. Let me thank you again for the invitation, and thank you for following what we do, commenting, criticizing, and giving your opinion. I mean, I think that this is what makes Ukraine particularly strong, like this presence of, a lot of think tanks, organizations, civil society, members of the government, like so alert on all these reforms and others. So thank you very much.
Дякую, пані Присила. Я хотів би подякувати
Thank you,
всім
Priscilla, and I would like to express my gratitude to all the speakers who were taking part in our second panel for this extremely interesting and I would say pretty deep information. It is extremely important not only to talk about some blatant things, but also to try to look deeper inside. And I would like to express my gratitude to the partners, our partners from the Institute of Analytics and Advocacy. Let's give 15 seconds to Yuriy. I haven't seen such a great management of discussion for a pretty long time. Okay, I'm blushed here. It's a great pleasure for me. Of course, it's about moderator. Moderator is managing this discussion, so well done for me. But if to get back to today's topic, I would like to mention that we haven't covered all the topics, and those topics that we got in Facebook and email, we will definitely view them within our consortium. And obviously, we are going to define on the basis of these questions of our next special topics, not to talk about everything, but to focus on something very specific. I again would like to get back to gratitude, expressing gratitude to our partners, Institute for Analytics and Advocacy. Thank you for cooperation. Thank you for expressing your gratitude to us. I would like to express our gratitude to DiXi Group, to the Center of Analytic Strategy, to the International Fund Renaissance, and I would like to express my gratitude to all those representatives of official government, if we can put it like that, that we are cooperating with not only on the level of some discussing of some matters, but we are cooperating with them constantly. And I can't help but mention here that Priscilla mentioned about this need of strengthening institutional capacity of government and our state and strategic planning. So when we met International Monetary Fund, and not only within Ukrainian facility, I mean experts, we mentioned that it should be one of the most important beacons, and of course it is one of the elements of strategy of reforming of the state governance in Ukraine in particular. Thank you those who were here with us. Thank you all of those who listened to us. We have a small buffet. During that we can also raise certain matters. Thank you all of those who were present here, and see you. So, and that every time we should celebrate performing of beacons and not to talk that much with the problems connected with their implementation. It's almost toast already. Thank you.